It's called Jll.
Oh, nice.
Remember our interview years ago?
Yeah.
And we went through a pretty stringent naming and branding process.
PowerPoints, power lunches, conference calls, reply to all, endless meetings, constant check-ins, and so much
wasted time.
Are you sick of the BS? So are we. It's time to take our time back, rework the way we work, and make every call a call to action. This is a podcast for people who want to stop talking and really start connecting. This is After 12.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a great show for you. Our guest today has enjoyed an incredible career in marketing that spans over 25 years. As the Chief Marketing Officer for global real estate giant JLL, she leads a team of over 250 and oversees business development, marketing and branding, public relations, and internal comms. Prior to joining JLL, she spent 14 years at Accenture in various senior roles, most recently leading marketing globally for the company's $6.8 billion unit that includes retail, consumer goods, life sciences, and more. And more importantly than that, she was my boss and taught me everything I know about marketing. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jll Kouri to After 12. Jll, welcome.
Thanks, Adam. That you're very kind. We had a great time at Accenture. I'm sure I didn't even come close to teaching you everything that you know, but you taught me about how to be an effective Santa at a holiday party and delight not only employees, but also young family members. So I appreciate that. And I really enjoyed our time together. It's great to see you thriving in your new role. And I thank you for inviting me to the show today.
Well, ho, ho, ho. And it's made the resume, and I'm glad you're here. There's a lot to talk about. I mean, we are living in truly intense, insane, uncertain, and turbulent times, from global pandemic to the Trump administration, racial tension, rising unemployment, and the upcoming presidential election. I guess I'll start with, how are you doing? How is the family doing? How are Craig and the kids faring through all of this?
Well, it's been tough, Adam. And I want to frame up what you just said with a great quote I heard on a Scott Galloway podcast last week. I was catching up on some of the Cannes Lion virtual programming. And I think I'm going to he credits Vladimir Lenin, but I'll credit Scott Galloway. There are decades when nothing happens, and there are weeks when decades happen. Is that not perfect? That is a perfect summary to what you just said.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty apropos, and it's like, you know, my mom has asked me, do you think the second coming will be coming soon? And I said, yeah, I'm sure of it, Mom.
It's insane. So overall, it's been, from a personal perspective, I'm not going to lie, it's been extremely challenging. I have a daughter who's a senior in high school who had to miss the majority of her senior lasts. There still hasn't been a graduation. I don't think there's going to be a prom. There's no final end of year celebrations. She weathered the storm with a lot of grace and resiliency. My son's a freshman. This was a semester of largely e-learning, virtual learning. Didn't really work well for him. I mean, I in comparing notes with a lot of parents, it didn't work well for a lot of kids, especially freshmen who were just adjusting to high school. I live in a multi-generational household. So my in-laws live in the lower unit of our home. They have a lot of risks to COVID, a lot of pre-existing conditions. So we've been really trying to keep them safe. And my mom is also in the last stages of battling cancer. So that's been super challenging to not be able to travel to see her. So it has been like a culmination or a perfect storm of everything coming together. And all of those things are quite negative. Along with all of the other things you framed out from a political socio or macroeconomic, and then racial injustice perspective. So I have told my team, I think this is the most challenging 4 to 6 months of my entire life.
Yeah, likewise.
However, we're healthy, and I mean, everyone in my household has stayed healthy. We're getting more quality time with the family than we ever have, and in fact, I feel more connected to my America's marketing team than I ever have before as well. And I'm sure we'll explore that topic of virtual working and remote working. Is it here to stay? But over that particular 3.5 month time frame, I couldn't be more happy with how we were able to maintain connectivity.
It's amazing how the people relationships that you have are definitely stronger now. I think the silver lining is I have a better marriage. I'm closer to my kids. The things that are important are really strong. I'm not wasting as much or just shopping to kind of bide my stress, or I'm not looking for as many distractions, because it's funny, like content like this, I mean, most people have moved to podcasting. Production has kind of ceased. I've talked to a lot of filmmakers and TV folks, and it's like they're just not doing anything. So yeah, I'm in the same boat you are. It's been an incredibly stressful 4 months, but I I think that what doesn't kill you is a great story in 5 years. So we'll see what happens on that. How is your team doing? How is JLL doing? I mean, you guys have taken quite a roller coaster ride yourself as the second largest commercial real estate company in the world.
Yeah. We're in the middle of that roller coaster ride, and you're exactly right. Our APAC business got hit with COVID first, or felt the impacts of it. We're a public company, can't talk specifically about financial earnings, but our Q1 earnings were solid. As you might imagine, there were a number of delays through COVID, some of them related to just not being able to physically tour space or travel. Yeah. Although we've got some great technological advances that helped progress things. But overall, you have to remember, and I know that we've talked about JLL in the past, and you're pretty familiar with the company, that we play across the entire real estate value chain. And we've got businesses related to real estate outsourcing, and we've got businesses related to property management. I am so proud of our teams who are frontline workers who have been responsible for keeping the lights on offices all over the world, in buildings that JLL manages all over the world. We've been really in the middle of things when a lot of people were told to stay home. A lot of our people were frontline workers, and demand for those outsourcing services and which is largely facility management and property management is extremely strong, and we're picking up a lot of new business there.
Well, and who would have thought that you would have a first point of contact risk from a property management perspective? Yeah. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah. I know, it's so interesting. One of the things that is so interesting about that business in particular, which can range from technical workers who are taking care of HVAC and managing energy and energy efficiency, but also cleaning. A lot of those folks were deliberately positioned to be completely behind the scenes, out of sight. You should never know all of the inner workings that are required to keep your buildings running and your people safe and healthy. And now we're finding a lot of our clients are very focused on make sure those cleaners are visible and present, because it's making our employees feel
safer. Yeah. It's funny, and you're probably profiling them in the online magazines and stuff. That's a really interesting part of it. When you look at like the Future of Work initiative that you guys put out a few years ago, I mean, it is evolved overnight because people were told by governments to stay at home, to work from home. And we had this long quarantine period. How is it now evolving? What is going to be that new or that next normal, as we kind of talked about a few weeks ago? It's like, where are we going, do you think? Where is JLL trying to help the industry go in terms of getting back on its feet now?
So if you don't mind, let me just start by telling you what JLL is doing. So we've got over 100, and I think we've got about 150 offices in our portfolio across the US. And then we've got a large presence across Asia and Europe. So across Asia, most of our offices are completely open for business. It is amazing, Adam, when, there's a few exceptions to that, but it's amazing to see, on WebEx calls, a full office and someone taking the call from their desk and seeing 25 people behind them. And across the US, we have already reopened 72% of the offices across our
Wow.
portfolio.
Okay. I had no idea.
So I mean, we are in the business, and we believe that we need to put our best foot forward around reentry as we're working very closely with our clients to help guide them on their reentry journeys. We are starting first across our portfolio. So while we probably have no more than 10 to 20% occupancy across our offices, we have done an amazing job working collaboratively with our HR organization, our facilities organization, our business leaders across the country, and our marketing organization that is very focused on providing an internal microsite that helps everyone understand exactly what their particular reentry journey will look like, as well as a lot of on-site materials, signage, health and safety provisions, et cetera, because we feel that this needs to be a high-touch experience.
Yes.
It's a no-touch experience.
High no-touch experience.
And we developed this overarching campaign called Step Forward, which you can imagine metaphorically, it is kind of stepping back into the next normal, but literally, so many things are changing when you get back into an office, from the flow within an office. There's really just one-way traffic flow around corridors, getting into an elevator and knowing that you can only have 4 people in a checkerboard pattern in an elevator at once. There's just a lot of things that I think we're all going to have to grow accustomed to as we're in this strange time between trying to get back to some semblance of a new or a next normal, and then wholesale having a vaccine that's available en masse, and maybe really seeing what a permanent or a more permanent next normal might look like. So that's kind of what we're doing.
That's it?
And so that, and we're watching it very, very closely. We've had some really great feedback from some of our brokers, our capital markets producers, who are already saying, even though they're social distancing and yes, we're wearing masks in open spaces, nothing can replace that on-site collaboration of a team who is working together on common goals. And one of our capital markets producers, Bruce Miller, sent an unsolicited email to our senior leaders across the US just saying, thank you for getting us back here safely, but thank you for taking the opportunity to be a first mover. It's already had a dramatic impact on my team. But you're right, Adam. That is our JLL story, and you're right that we have a future of work piece of thought leadership that has guided the way we interact with clients, especially our occupier clients across the board. And things are definitely evolving. We just put out the Future of Office Demand report that you referenced earlier. And there are four key factors that we think will impact the future of work. And I'll just tell you, we've already talked about remote working, and whether or not that we know that there is going to be more flexibility in people having a mix of working from home and being able to work in the office. We do not think that that's going to change. COVID has been a complete accelerant in pushing the envelope on how far you can go. And most companies have responded pretty well from a technology perspective. But this is what we have to watch. Again, post-vaccine, are people really going to want to work from home 90 to 100% of the time, and our company's going to want that to happen.
Right. Well,
right?
the accelerant here, I think, was fear. The uncertainty.
Yeah.
But it's funny you say that, because there was a New York Times daily briefing that came out June 30th that said, "Who needs offices? ? Employers like Facebook are becoming excited about the long-term prospect of remote working, mostly because of the money it saves. But decades of setbacks suggest a bumpy road ahead. In the past, IBM, Best Buy, and other companies scrapped work from home experiments after finding that telecommuting diminished accountability and creativity." And you and I have talked about this in the past too. I mean, Accenture, has kind of ebbed and flowed on this line in the past as well. And I agree with you. I mean, having flexibility not out of fear. So when you look at like a post-vaccine or it is a safe environment, but giving people the opportunity to choose based on their need for flexibility.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a factor to watch. Office design overall. So are companies going to be responsive in this process of de-densification? Mm-hmm. So when we worked at Accenture, we saw, do you remember when we moved to an almost all open office floor plan? And yes, we're all aware that open office concept was definitely the hot trend. Well, guess what? Having that open office floor plan and desk sharing and all of the things that a lot of companies have done or moved to over the last 5 to 10 years, it's probably not going to be fit for purpose for the future. So our CEO of our markets business, John Gates, keeps talking about the fact that companies are going to continue to have office space. It's just a matter of how are they going to change the way they use it. So are we going to see a return to more closed offices? Are we going to see mandatory shifts of, mandatory working from home for 2 days a week or 3 days a week for half of the population? Are we going to see changes in industries like legal that has some of the highest square footage per professional? Are they actually ahead of the game, and are more companies going to move to the trend that the legal industry has been on? There are so many things at play right now, and our research team continues to say, while we can guide and advise and speculate on what the future holds, it's still so early to tell. So the other two factors are, we talked about technology, and then this whole notion of commuting and public commuting. Yeah. We've done a number of surveys with our JLL employees in each region, and public transit is one of the biggest concerns in urban areas that people have about a return to work that at some point maybe is not optional, i.e. JLL and most companies who are sending employees back right now in phase one are totally allowing employees to make the choice of whether or not they want to go in the first wave. And ideally, it's folks who, like Bruce Miller, who I mentioned earlier, who work in teams that are, deal making and heavily focused on sharing data and analytics and really needing to be together. But will there be a time where companies start saying, okay, it's time now? How are those people who are taking public transit going to feel? Again, most of what we're talking about is pre-vaccine.
Sure.
So these are heavy concerns, and I think in some of our environments where there really isn't public transit, like Columbus and Dallas, we are definitely seeing a higher comfort level because people drive to the office, put their mask on, and we have a lot of closed office space still in our Dallas office. And people say it's the cleanest place they've been, or the safest and, seemingly cleanest place they've been other than their home. And it's just so exciting for them to just get out of the home environment and have a change of scenery. But again, they didn't have to get on a metro train or an L to get to the office.
Well, what's the protocol when they get there? They have the mask on, they walk to their office, they close the door, they take their mask off, they get on the phone, and then when they interact, do they wear a mask? Is that what's happening in the corporate?
So we face coverings are required at all times unless you are in your it could be your cubicle or in an actual closed office. As long as there are not people working within 6 feet of you, you can leave your mask off at that point in time. But when you're walking throughout the building, using the kitchen, using any of the public facilities, the mask is on. And we've been pretty diligent about that across all of our offices.
I wonder if that's the reason, like, your APAC units are doing so much better, because masking in, Greater China or Japan, I mean, these are kind of commonplace practices anyway. It culturally speaking, for Americans, there's so much involved in facial meta messaging, we're just very animated.
Great. Well, and there are also things happening in Asia where you are seeing people before they enter a Class A high-rise building, a 20-story building. Every person gets a temperature check before they walk into that building. Yep. So you're seeing, just based on a lot of the governmental mandates, much more active
monitoring. They have the thermal cameras too upon entry.
And contact tracing stuff on apps on phones, and which you've heard about some of the advancements that might have here, but a lot of it's extremely optional. There are things that are happening in a lot of countries in Asia that are just part of the way that they operate from a governmental perspective. And in the end, it does seem to be working in many of these countries. But I don't think we're ever going to see a time where we're going to see mandatory temperature checks or some of these other systems in place in the U.S. And we put a lot of trust and faith in our people. We've seen what's been happening in Texas and Arizona and
California, Georgia,
and Florida. And is it 21 to 30-year-olds who are going to the bars and thinking that they're going kids, back to
those millennials?
I don't know. I had a conversation with someone about this the other day, and I said, so what are we? Should we say that bars are not open to 21 to 30-year-olds and change?
Yes, that's what we should say. Everybody would be drinking Sauvignon Blanc, though, Jill, and vodka. Oh my goodness.
But it is interesting because we have some anecdotal feedback from some of our offices that have opened that, there is a concern with that younger generation who seems just so focused on getting back to their version of normal. And while there are still risks for that younger population, we worry so much about the spread to the older, more vulnerable population. And
I know
it's a fact of life now, though, that we all need to be focused on this regardless of our age.
Well, you look at how they did it in 1918, right? I mean, we have precedented examples of how they wrote it out for months and months and months. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that immediacy, technology, having a single click kind of point of satisfaction for the human to consume wasn't there. So you could wait out months and months and feel like, okay, it's great, because the flow of information, the flow of just things to do, it just wasn't as an immediate thing. It's funny you mentioned the third thing in the kind of your future of work initiative was technology. What I mean, one of the great things about having COVID, the silver lining, other than, getting closer to people, is also kind of finding technological approaches or innovations. Really, necessity is the mother of invention. What kind of things have you guys been pivoting to in terms of technology or platforms, or what new kind of findings have you had from this whole thing?
Yeah. Well, quite a bit, and quite a bit started ahead of COVID. So we have been embracing technology, and our global CEO has said that we want to be the best technology company that focuses on real estate, which is a dramatic step change from saying we're a leading commercial real estate services provider. But in the last year, Adam, we started a fairly large division of JLL called Jll Technologies, which delivers technology products and solutions and drives technology innovation to help JLL innovate, but also to help our clients innovate. And I don't know if we've talked about this before, but we hired two Silicon Valley veterans named Mihir Shah and Yishai Lerner. They had experience with early stage Groupon and Uber, and they're amazing guys who went to MIT together and have always stayed together wherever they've gone, and they're the co-leaders of this Jll Technologies group. So part of Jll Technologies is a global venture fund called Jll Spark, and that fund invests in and incubates prop tech companies, property technology companies, that are really helping to advance an industry that has largely been somewhat of a laggard from a tech perspective.
Sure.
So while we've got a group called JLL Labs that's part of this JLL Technology group, and then of course we're getting involved in some of these startups that we're investing in. We're doing things like better managing occupancy data and space utilization software to reimagine office layouts kind of on the fly. So you can imagine right now, this is great technology to bring to bear in with the pandemic. We're also doing more real-time monitoring and work order management to prioritize data-driven building operations. Again, this has been a largely manual process, so bringing all of this online is fantastic for efficiency for efficiency reasons. And then we're working on developing in-house, but also with some of our partners, employee-facing apps that will help them better navigate the workplace. So we've got this product, and you're going to laugh. It's called Jll.
Oh, nice.
Remember our interview years ago?
Yeah.
And we went through a pretty stringent naming and branding process, and Jll was the chosen name. But imagine talking to Jll when you go into your meeting room, and you want Jll to control the temperature of the meeting room. You want Jll to ensure that beverages are brought in. You want Jll to see if we can block the meeting room for another hour. So it's a voice-activated app that will help, we think, revolutionize and make more efficient a lot of standard employee interactions and workplace interactions. So that's something that is in pilot mode right now.
That's great.
And
it's kind of like an Alexa or Siri kind of AI.
Yeah, well, I can't say it, but you said it, so I'll just nod my head. But yes, there are.
Sue me, not her. Yes.
Exactly. So I'm pretty excited about all of the evolution and change that's happening from the time I joined 6 years ago. It's really gotten so exciting to have not only Mihir and Yishai leading JLL Technologies, but to see the amazing talent that they're attracting from Silicon Valley. They just brought in a chief data officer who I think came from eBay. We've got a lot of software engineers now on site. It's just it's a whole different place than where we were 6 years ago. And I think the progress has been fantastic.
And how are your employees responding to all this outreach and this communication and the new technology platforms? Have they been receptive, or I mean, what's like? You probably get a good litmus test being, the head of the Americas marketing group.
Yeah. I think everybody is very excited to see that we are making investments in an area that is critical for us to continue to hold our place in the top three in the world. I think that speed to market is something where we've made commitments, and maybe some employees are saying, I wish we could move faster. But overall, if you look at how our employees are benefiting with intra-company communications and benefits that they're getting from being a more technology-driven company, we need only look at what happened during COVID and how our Jll Technologies organization, especially the part of the group that services the JLL organization, was able to mobilize and rally and make a transition. And we aren't like Accenture, Adam. We have never had a large population of the workforce work relatively virtually, but they rallied immediately, and it was very, very seamless. And then we started to introduce, I brought this up earlier when I was telling you that some of the leasing activity was on hold because people couldn't go out and physically tour buildings, right?
Yeah.
So one of our leaders, he's our chief innovation officer for our markets organization. He had already been working with a lot of those tools that I mentioned earlier, and he developed a complete digital tenant experience offering where we could basically walk people through buildings, show people with the office design tool. I'm not going to name it, but we're going through a product rebranding.
Okay.
Now. But he can use that tool to showcase how they might build out a floor of their new space. We've also got a tool where we have a valuations business where we, on a quarterly basis, we assess the value of properties, just like a residential real estate assessor would do. Well, now we can do that all virtually as well through having an employee on the other end use a camera with this bespoke technology we've got to get inside buildings, check out the standard things that we look at, but not have to put someone on a plane to do it. So I think as our employees are seeing that they're becoming more efficient, both through internal JLL workplace productivity, but they're also able to help their clients get things done more quickly. It's almost become a not nice to have, but an absolute must have. And I think we're responding really well.
Well, it's funny how, technology has been such an immediate and important, really essential bridge between, the physical and the digital. Having the former deputy mayor of New York City, Kaz Holloway, he kind of described it as like an ADA approach. You need to have the option for both. I am totally, like, as a creative person, I agree with you. I believe that I want to have interactions in an office. I want to be able to collaborate. I want to be able to whiteboard. If I'm pitching something, I'd rather be in front of my client than, over a phone call or a Zoom conference bridge, which we're using right now. But it's like these tools have responded to an immediate need that we had that was predicated by infection, fear, all of that, and we talked about it. Yep. But what do you think our relationship with space and each other is going to look like in kind of this post-COVID world? And it could be a world with a vaccine or without a vaccine. I'm just, now that it's been introduced, and now we know that there is a pathogen out there that has no cure, that causes death for 0.5% on average of the population. Like, when you sit with your senior leadership meetings, do you guys get into these kind of philosophical debates of like, well, what can we do to, again, it's health and wellness, create the most secure place, but at the same time, attract people to want to come and join the work that you guys are doing. For instance, millennials are projected to make up 75% of the global workforce in 2025. These are the people that are the super spreaders we're reading about, and they're going out without fear. So how do we get everybody to, again, have a relationship that's kind of agnostic with the space and feel that we can move forward? Because I think more than anything, when we really haven't talked about the economy, but we need to move forward as a people to create inventing, to continue inventing, creating, innovating, and really keeping the lights on.
Yeah. So there's a lot in that question. So let me just take the first part again, and the theme that we've talked about quite a bit, which is the health and safety focus. So no matter what, even post-vaccination, I think you're going to see companies focusing on how healthy buildings contribute to human performance and productivity overall. And I don't recall if we talked about this when I talked to you a couple weeks ago, but we have a relationship with Dr. Joseph Allen, who is a professor. He's an industrial hygienist, but he's part of the Healthy Buildings Department at Harvard. And we've done a few podcasts, webcasts with him. And the importance of air quality in offices is now becoming
huge.
A huge topic. So much of the focus historically has been on outdoor air pollution from an environmental perspective, but people spend 90% of their time indoors. So you're going to see a lot more talk about air circulation, filtration, ventilation. There are current sort of minimum standards of how much air you need to pump in from the outside on an hourly basis. This is going to, I think, Adam, dominate conversation for a while. I think your points about, you didn't say it, but you were talking a lot about employer brand and yes, culture and being able to attract employees. And I have an example of one who I just met with over WebEx this morning. Attract employees, in some cases, without the employee ever stepping foot into an office. I feel like we're almost past that time at JLL, but a lot of these companies who have said 100% work from home for the rest of 2020 are in this space where they are going to need to build personal connection and trust with employees through doing what we're doing right now, and that's just having a conversation. The difference with us is we've got, over a decade of history together.
Right.
And this individual who I just met this morning, who's a new hire in our marketing team based in London, he did every step of the interview, the recruiting process first, and then the interviewing process over WebEx, every step.
Wow.
And I said, Lewis, what possessed you to join JLL without having met one person or having stepped into one office? I mean, it's a provocative question, and hopefully I figured he would say some of the things that he answered, but he said, listen, first of all, I love the fact that you guys have a stated purpose, and we're not going to have time to get into it today, but JLL's purpose is to shape the future of real estate for a better world. And it's something that we're really investing in. Financially, we have a partnership with Bloomberg Green, and a lot of the work there is more from a sustainability perspective. But shaping the future of real estate for a better world means so many different things, and there's a big technology bent to it as well, and there's a big corporate social responsibility piece. But so he loved what we stood for. He loved that future forward focus on tech that we talked about, but he also loved the authenticity of our people and the fact that every employee he spoke with talked so much about our culture and how much they believe in our culture and how we're different and special. And I feel like if you don't have all of those basic building blocks and have, your strong employer brand, your strong culture, engaged employees, you cannot fake it and attract top talent through just interacting over, WebEx or Zoom or whatever technology. So that is something that's why in a lot of the work we're doing right now with helping companies with their reentry journeys, we've got our CHRO, both our America CHRO and our global CHRO, interacting with CHROs all over the world, because what we're finding overwhelmingly from them is that having amazing physical space is one of those key tenets to building culture and employee engagement. And I personally, I've had debates with people about this. I cannot imagine a time where everything is virtual. Imagine that example I just gave you. Now, Lewis did just get to go into our London office the other day, and he interacted with a handful of people and got his tech and his computer and everything. But I cannot imagine never having in-person meetings again, never having in-person training, never doing physical onboarding. It just doesn't seem possible.
It's funny though, the words that we've used as marketers, the word disruption, huge. The word authenticity, huge. These have different meanings now. I mean, we've experienced what real disruption is, and we've experienced real authenticity. I've definitely had those moments of like, the COVID blues where, I have to get or shut my camera off because I'm crying in my hands. Those moments of like, you just don't know where this is, where you're going. And I think, having a company that has purpose and has outreach and cares about you as a person is really, really important. Which brings me to my last question for you, which is mental health. You talk about the relationship that we have with our spaces, our buildings, and each other. How are you helping, how's JLL, I should say, helping its employees and then helping other companies, reach out and really touch somebody when they can't physically touch them?
Adam, this is it's such a big topic, and mental health, a lot of times it's sort of got a stigma attached to it. And a lot of people don't want to openly converse about mental health challenges or issues. And we have made such a bigger focus on looking into our huge suite of benefits that we offer all employees, but mining all of those benefits to really bring to the forefront the particular mental health benefits, and also expanding on those as we've gone into COVID, because we have seen that our employees are suffering from impacts of isolation. I mean, imagine a lot of our employees are single people who are in the urban jungle, and they couldn't leave their apartments for months, and that is not a recipe for in some cases good mental health. So one of the things we've done is we formed a tighter partnership with Headspace, so all of our employees can get access to the meditation app at no charge. We've amped up some of our health and well-being benefits, and have offered a lot of special additional programming. And a lot of us also started bringing meditation and yoga and Pilates and other special activities to our employees during those 3 or so months where the majority of the population was working from home. I was focused on bringing some bit of programming to people at least once a week, and getting everybody who was courageous enough on camera and participating in a group activity. We even had one of our employees do a cooking demo. And it was, I think what one of the words that we haven't talked about today is just humanity and just care for individuals that goes well beyond okay, this is the work that you need to get done. Let me know if you need any help with your work. We are focused on the whole person. And I am a huge believer in work-life integration. And, I don't change my persona in my work life and my personal life. I am who I am. And everything was just merging for everybody we lost track of days, time, weeks, like everything just melded together, right? So I think that notion of really focusing on humanity was something that's been alive and well and really amped up across the board. And I'm really proud of it. And I know that we have a lot of data and metrics on how much more people are clicking into the materials related to the mental health benefits, and we're going to continue, putting that front and center for our employees.
And right now, we're going to play the video of you leading the Pilates class. No, it's humanity is huge. You talk about. You guys are a real estate company, and you think about the real estate of our mind. How we think and feel, and that delineation between work and home has been merging for years and years and years, and now it had to. It physically had to merge when work becomes your house. And it's funny, Jll. When we've started doing virtual working at Accenture, the rule of thumb was, well, A, there was no video. B, if you heard a dog barking, that was okay and could be kind of considered affable. But if you heard a baby crying,
exactly.
That's not good. But now all of those kind of pre-existing rules have flown out the window.
We're encouraging people to bring their kids on camera and interact with them. So in the end, I personally, I was in the office a couple of times last week. It was fine. It was great to just get out of my house and go into a different environment. But
totally,
restaurants aren't open yet. There weren't. I've told the rest of my marketing organization to stand down for a while. But I personally am looking forward to getting back to some semblance of a next normal and getting more of that in-person interaction. But I think this notion of humanity and creating moments of connection without being able to see people is something that we're going to really have to continue to put an emphasis on for many months to come.
Agreed. And I'm looking forward to having a glass of wine with you at a bar with no millennials.
As am I.
Well, Jll, thank you so much for joining the podcast today. It was wonderful seeing you and talking with you, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, Adam. I really enjoyed it. Talk to you soon.